So any of you who can do it for more than 30 seconds, you are a king after 40 years of age, is premature ejaculation. You go to the office, your boss fires you. Ladies and gentlemen, a very good morning to you. I'm Professor Dr. Ajit Saxena, consultant andrologist and urologist at Indraprastha Apollo Hospitals, New Delhi. Now, people generally ask me, what is the difference between andrology and urology? It's very simple. When the organ is looking upwards, then it's andrology, and when it's looking downwards, it's urology. You cannot do a cystoscopy on an erect penis. Similarly, there are troubles when person doesn't get an erection, and that is andrology. The third thing I want to impress upon you is that the lion, animal from whom the other animals are afraid, human beings are afraid, king of the jungle, can do it in 20 seconds. So any of you who can do it for more than 30 seconds, you are a king. Sex after 40. There are special problems when in the middle-aged group, the lady is trying to send her kids to school, seeing after the house, the family, what's going to be cooked, the cleanliness of the house. She has got so many things on her mind. Sex is the last thing on her mind at that time. Similarly, the man is under stress from his job, from various activities that he's doing, maybe having a hobby or something of that kind. So he has very little time for sex. I always maintain that for a wholesome sex, you have to have your body, mind and soul together. In the West, that is the main problem because they do it as a mechanical thing. The mind is elsewhere and the soul is of course elsewhere. To have a wholesome sex, you need the three combinations of both the partners to be matched. In fact, sex begins from breakfast onwards. A little peck on the cheek or a little joke as you are leaving for your office will do wonders for the evening. All this is an effort and we don't realize in our normal stresses and strains of life. Now let me refer back to my first slide that I showed you, the 4 phases of a sexual act. The first is the desire. Desire is all good at the age of 40. But what people have problems is getting a proper erection. You see, when I was a student, most of the cases were labeled as psychological. 75% of the cases were labeled as psychological. And since there was no good psychologist, they were sent to the psychiatrist, who promptly put them on drugs, which made them sleep and forget about sex. That's how it was treated. Now the situation is different with all the new instruments and modalities that we have. We are now able to find out that in 75% of cases there is a physical defect, it's a problem, and superadded on that is psychological element. So in response to stress, there are a lot of changes that occur in the human body. You go to the office, your boss fires you, you come back home, that firing is still in your mind, you will not have a proper erection. It is all an interplay between mind and the various bodily changes which are physical in nature. All that plays on the sexual performance at the age of 40, where you have influences coming on from all sides. The other specific problem that comes after sex, after 40 years of age, is premature ejaculation. I find it very often in my patients that they were all right earlier on and now they start having premature ejaculation. This is a consequence of two things. One is the mind, as we have been talking all along, and secondly, the chances of infection in the genital tract, which then irritates the release of the semen, and inflammation occurs in that area, resulting in early discharge. That has to be sorted out by andrologist stroke sexologist. Lastly, the latency period. The latency period can be increased because of influences on the mind. Otherwise, there's no reason why a man of 40 years of age should have any problems with that. What can be done for this? The rule of S, my 10 commandments. The first S is soups. Now, soup has got micronutrients in it, and therefore they are very important for the development of hormones, particularly the male hormone testosterone. The more you have micronutrients, the better it is. Not just for testosterone, but for the whole body as well. So soups are the first thing that one should take. A healthy diet is very important because at that time when you are flying from one place to another, you catch a burger somewhere, you take fast food, and all that affects the general health of the person. Increase in cholesterol causes a clogging of the arteries, which again is not a good sign. And therefore, my second S is salads. Salads have, apart from micronutrients, good antioxidants. And antioxidants are required for the general growth of the body, and in particular, the hormones that affect the sexual life. So switch over from fast food to salads would be a good option. The third thing is sex itself. Out of all the exercises that one does, sex is the best form of exercise. Why? Because there are 4 happy hormones that are released in the human body: dopamine, 5-HT or serotonin, oxytocin, and kinins. No other exercise can give rise to all 4 hormones at the same time. It's only in sex that you have all the 4 hormones released, and therefore the effect is compounded. If you do physical exercises, only a certain amount of hormones are released, or if you do another kind of activity, only certain hormones are released. But as I said, sex is the only form of exercise where all 4 hormones are released, and therefore leads to a very happy situation. Therefore, regular sex is important. Another thing with this is that if you don't use your organs for a long time, then you will find that you have difficulty in erection also, or you may have premature ejaculation. So, in other words, use it or lose it. The next S is for swimming. What I mean by that is exercises. Swimming is again a very good form of exercise. But if you cannot go do swimming, you can do certain other physical exercises, and all that will do is release the male hormone testosterone, which is very much required for sexual activity. Then comes sleep. Normally 10 hours of sleep are what is required. But I can well imagine that in the modern stresses and strains of life, it's not always possible to get that much hours of sleep. 6 to 8 hours of sound sleep should do. There are certain don'ts that you should keep in mind. First among them is stress. Now, I understand that stress cannot be avoided, but it can be managed better. A simple principle is not to take home to the office or office to the home. Keep the two compartments separate, and we'll have a better sex life. Another thing that's very important in cases of sex after 40 is smoking. Nicotine. You know what smoking does? It clogs up the small arteries. It causes the small arteries to go into spasm, and therefore the blood supply to that particular organ is reduced. The first organ to be affected is the penis. Why? Because the blood vessels there are 1 millimeter in diameter, as opposed to the heart blood vessels, which people are very much bothered about, which are 3 millimeter in diameter. Otherwise, both the blood vessels have a similar structure, similar vasculature, but the difference is in the diameter. And which will clog first? The 1 millimeter one. So the scientists have found out that almost 2 years before a heart attack, there is erectile dysfunction in persons who are susceptible to heart attacks. We'll talk about that some other time. Next, S is for sweets. Lifestyle diseases like diabetes and blood pressure are problems which occur usually after 40 years of age and are first noticed in the busy hustle bustle of life. Therefore, to avoid diabetes, or if you have diabetes, then it's all the more imperative that you don't take sweets. And finally, spirits, alcohol. What about them? Alcohol in small doses works wonders for the performance, but same taken in large doses causes the reverse effect. It brings about the desire but takes away the performance, and therefore stay away from alcohol if you want a good sex life after 40. And finally, ladies and gentlemen, if nothing works, S for Saxena. What I mean to say is see an andrologist in your neighborhood, take help. But I hope you enjoyed today's talk. If you like it, press the like button, and also don't forget to subscribe to my channel. If you have any comments, and I would welcome topics that you would like me to cover in the future, please write in the comment section. I hope you have learned something out of the talk and you're going to implement it and see what happens. All the best. Bye.